17th of December 2022 is an exceptional evening, ladies and gentlemen, because you must be aware of the fact by this time that it's actually, I'm not fibbing, this is actually true. The Chief Minister of West Bengal and the Home Minister of India has actually had a very congenial meeting without the use of crash helmets. And this meeting has just been concluded a few hours ago to the great elation, to the great relief of the citizens of this state. Now, Bengal in general and Bengalis in particular are no strangers to adversities. Of late, many things have been thrown at us, including the fact that we are pressing India's oil export bill in the wrong direction by too many Bengalis frying too many fish. I was a bit aghast in the beginning when in full public glare this fried fish and Bengali statement were made. But only later on I realized that a very considerate friend was actually looking after the lipid profile of the members of the state and making sure that our cholesterol levels all stayed within the safe limits. So be it. We cannot hide the anxiety, which is not just in Bengal but shared perhaps by many states, 28 big ones, 8 smaller ones, that the journey of Indian federalism, which started about 73 years back, is prone to falter, is prone to fray. And from an atmosphere of collaborative federalism, are we walking the path of a combative federalism? Is that good for the country? Is that good for the state? Is a question that 74 years hence, the citizen of this country and citizens of this state must come together, ask itself, and have the breadth of vision and the clarity of concepts to debate it, to discuss it. And it is with this purpose this evening that this House has made a statement that Bengal is a victim of failed federalism. I need not introduce anybody on either side elaborately. So each one of them extremely distinguished in their own spheres. So both the proposition and the opposition will have 8 minutes speaking time in the beginning. Please adhere to the time. There is a visual timer right in front of us. At the end of 8 minutes, they have an opportunity to come back for 3 more minutes in whatever order they would want to, depending upon the priority of the points that has been made this evening. And they will have those 3 minutes to rebut. At the end of the 3 minutes of rebuttal, we will invite our young India jury, depending upon how we are doing with time, to throw 2 to 3 questions to each side. If you address it to a particular speaker, the speaker will take the question. If the questions are addressed to the side, any one of you have the liberty to take it up and answer it. And once again, maintaining the time, the law and order, with me is Natasha Aziz. Natasha, thank you ever so much. And with that note, it's with great pleasure that we invite to the podium the opening speaker for the proposition, Mr. Kalyan Banerjee, our Kollanda, whose legal expertise, whose depth of knowledge in his legal arena, and with the vast political experience behind him, I think who better could be there to open the debate this evening. Mr. Kalyan Banerjee.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I, Dr. Kunal Sarkar, the chairman, all the distinguished speakers, and my beloved brother, now the president of the Calcutta Club. There can be no quarrel with the proposition that India is having the model of the federalism. In the debate of the Constituent Assembly, at the time of the draft constitution, Sri T.T. Krishnamachari stated that, quote, I will urge that our constitution is one in which we have given power to the units which are both substantial and significant in the legislative sphere and in the executive sphere, unquote. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, while participating in the debate, explained everything, and at last he stated, quote, the chief mark of the federalism, as I said, lies in the partition of the legislative and executive authority between the center and the units by the Constitution. And this is the principle embodied in our Constitution, unquote. Although federalism is the basic structure of our Constitution, there is always a trend of over-centralizing the power by weakening the state's power. The partition of the Bengal in 1947 was responsible for strengthening of regionalism and radicalism in the state. The Bengalis felt that all throughout they were discriminated by the all India political leaders and realized that it was planned attempt to suppress the state of West Bengal. The towering personality and in-depth knowledge of Dr. B.C. Bidhan Chandra Rai and his eagerness to build up the state, an independent base of power, he brings important factors in the politics of the West Bengal. In 1980s, when the West Bengal government ruled by the Left Front, they have placed a memorandum, 16 points memorandum, for the purpose of building up a relationship between central and the state. But still now, all the ruling party who formed the government in the state of West Bengal have demanded that and have said that there was a centralization of power and the state is being discriminated. Still now, our Chief Minister, Srimati Mamata Banerjee, also said, it is really a great problem in our constitutional sphere and sought for repeatedly cooperative federalism. What I have said, that I will try to substantiate each and everything by giving the statistics and sharing the statistics to all of you. Before I give the statistics, please mark the one important fact is this. West Bengal, regarding the collection of the direct taxes within different states in India, West Bengal position is 6th. We are in the 6th position. Above us, Maharashtra, Delhi, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. And all these states are after us. But what we have got it? What we have got it in the exchange of that, although we are in this 6th position, this is the debate, according to me, has to be based on the statistics today. You see, center per capita, direct spending during 2006 to 2008, which is the latest figure, is available. Petroleum subsidy, West Bengal, 350.84. Rajasthan, 429.15. Punjab, 842.46. Haryana, 867.49. Goa, small state, 1,646.55. Food subsidy. West Bengal has got per capita 185.78. Kerala, 198.83. Karnataka, 248.73. Chhattisgarh, 291. Tamil Nadu, 386.61. Petroleum subsidy. We have got West Bengal, 183.18. Tamil Nadu, 194.25. Chhattisgarh, 245.87. Andhra Pradesh, 361.93. Punjab, 790.04. I have lot of statistics I am coming to. The All India average subsidy. All India average subsidy is 913.84. West Bengal got 760.04. Maharashtra, 1053.84. Tamil Nadu, 1270.4.40. Haryana, 1639.88. Goa, 1808.72. The Bengal is a victim. Bengal has all the time Bengal has been deprived of. Now, pending with the central government, today's up to 31st July 2022, 1,968.44 crore. I have enough figures, statistics. I will not use the expression this figure because of the reason that once we went to Spain as a parliamentary delegation, and in Spain the speaker was a lady speaker. The one of us, she was giving the figures, statistics. The one of us of the Odisha said that the figure of the speaker is incorrect. In a lighter note, I said, why you are talking about the lady speaker, that figure is incorrect? You all must say the statistics. Therefore, I am using the expression statistics. Now, see the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, West Bengal, today 2021-22, figure I am giving, 49.94 crores. Chhattisgarh, 394.41 crores. Uttar Pradesh, 1,418.55 crores. Madhya Pradesh, 1,392.13 crores. Odisha, 437.50 crores. These are the figures. In case of Samagra Shikha Abhijan Mission, West Bengal 2021-22, 1,30,974.48. Assam 1,56,156. Tamil Nadu 1,59,882. Madhya Pradesh 2,29,279. Rajasthan 2,40,582. Uttar Pradesh 2,04,497. I am having a full of statistics that will take much time. You see, in a law and order situation, even in the law and order, which is the subject matter of the state is concerned, they are also interfering. There is an interference by the central government. Take a case of an income tax. Even in income tax authority used to take the help of the local police for the purpose of conducting the search and seizure. Now a new trend has come up. They are going with the CISF personnel for the purpose of conducting search and seizure. Although under section 132 of the Indian Income Tax Act, the income tax authority can take the assistance of the central government official. Central Reserve Police Force is not a central government official. Central Reserve Police Force under the Act of CRPF Act is a force, is not a central government official. Now there is also...
We have to wind up.
Finish?
Just wind up.
Wipe up. No, just... Anyway, last one is this. This is the problem of the advocates and the parliamentarians, political leaders. And always we get time from the judges also. One of my judges sitting here, Justice Roy, and also speakers is there. Now, I will finish it. See, in a recent days, the Union Law Minister is also not living to attack of the Indian judiciary. Regarding the Collegium National Judicial Appointment Bill, when it was introduced, I spoke on behalf of the National Judicial Appointment Bill. 50 minutes, although the time was 5 minutes, it was up to 50 minutes.
Kulanda,
You as you know, it is a basic structure.
you can come back.
Legislative, judiciary is also being attacked by the law minister saying that a collegium is wrong, collegium is wrong, collegium is wrong. Because central government wants every power in their pocket so that control even the judiciary, so that control all the states, so that control all the police personnel. Thank you for giving me.
Thank you, Kulanda. I think very passionately, substantiated by statistics, you have outlined your worries, your anxiety, and not very dissimilar to what you said was perhaps the closing speech of B.R. Ambedkar to the Constituent Assembly in 1949, when he said that this federal structure and unitary spirit of the Indian Constitution has to be handled with lot of care and lot of tenderness. But question remains, has it been handled with lot of care and lot of tenderness? And to support it from the other side, we have Mr. P.K.D. Nambiar. Mr. Nambiar, who is extremely well accomplished in public relations, and he is a regular spokesperson for the Bharatiya Janata Party. He joins us all the way from Delhi. Mr. Nambiar, thank you.
Thank you. I was told that in Bengal, left is the right. Good evening, Calcutta, and thank you so much for having me here. It's indeed a great pleasure to be amongst one of the finest minds of India sitting here. I'm one of the youngest in the group, but hence, my voice needs to be heard slightly more higher. But look at the way, on the other side there are two mics and only on this side only one mic. That is one of the basic challenges of West Bengal. My dear friends, for me, West Bengal is not just another state in the country. For me, and for the millions of Indians, West Bengal is an emotion. An emotion you and me and across millions of people in India recite every day, on every occasion, in the form of a national song and national anthem written by the two greatest minds which has given birth by this land, Rabindranath Tagore and Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. So for me, Bengal is not just a state, but an emotion. But when that emotion speaks about just the number of some figures and talk about a victimhood, that alone exposes some of the political minds which has ruled this state for the last 50, 60 years. When I was invited for this program and when Mr. Kunal Sarkar told me about the topic, I was a bit amused. One, Bengal is a victim. Second is the failed federalism. Imagine, isn't it a question or is it a statement? To me, it sounded like a statement, and I'm sure most of you. So my humble request to you that, sir, don't make that kind of a statement, at least when you have a topic of discussion, because I beg to differ in both the states that Bengal is neither a victim nor the federalism in India has ever failed and will ever fail. Because we are a vibrant democracy which stood almost 75 years, a vivid nation with one of the youngest population in the world. So I beg to differ for the topic of today's discussion. Now look at the Bengal. I am from Kerala, born and brought up in Kerala in the communist bastion called as Kannur. All those who knows about the name Kannur itself will be told that it is another West Bengal in a way. In every possible way. But then I never heard of this West Bengal who is crying that this number of figures which he was explaining as if that the statement of accounts, a state which was striving as the one of the largest economy in the as the most economically advanced state in the 1960s until early 70s. A large amount of corporate and multinational companies were having its headquarters, not only their Indian headquarters, but their South Asian headquarters in this very land. Ask yourself why all those people, all those corporate houses, why all those industries had to leave this particular place. I think every Bengali needs to answer to themselves. Put your hands on your chest and ask yourself, one of the most patriotic people in this country, one of the most natural resources is there in this land of Bengal. Why it is from one of the most successful state came to the state of a poor state, wanted to stand more of like with a begging ball, or crying, or trying to play the victimhood. This is where the primary thing. Not just the data which may suits you. Not the data which suits you is not the problem. The problem is that the incapability, only for the political purposes, a political leadership for the last 60 years have ruined the state which was always prosperous. This is the land of Vivekananda. This is the land of Subhash Chandra Bose. This is the land where the cultural renaissance had happened. Imagine why Britishers have chosen to made this land as the capital. Because it was the most prosperous place. It had one of the oldest port in this country. But let me ask you this, over the last 60 years, my dear friend, how many more ports you have made? The first aluminium plant was founded in this very West Bengal. How about in the second 5-year plan when Nehru, which I don't agree with any of his policies, but in the second 5-year plan, almost 75% or 1/3 of the entire industrialization budget was thrown to this particular land. The Durgapur, Kalyani, and many other industrial hubs were made. The 2 steel plants. It was the pharma capital, pharma manufacturing hub. The chemical factories were here. Where are all these gone? Why don't you answer that? How much money have you been able to forget about the Gujarat, when the Tamil Nadu, when Karnataka, the South Indian states were, the people were queuing up there, the multinational companies and the corporates to invest in those lands. What happened to this land where the Ganga is just merging into the sea? What happened? Because you wanted to have the power. And to get into the power, you killed thousands of political killings. And that is where you made the mistake. Don't cry. The time has come for the youth of the Bengal to get up. As I said, I am from Kerala. When I see the old CPIM local leaders, there is a comic says in my place, the old CPIM leaders of the local committee secretary, branch secretaries are now making parotas in the roadside vendors in Kerala or in Delhi or in those places. Why? It has got everything here. But I think that is where the mistake had happened. Do you know the very fact that the first CES, Special Economic Zone, was created in this very land in the country? How many more CES Mamta Didi has created? How many more CES the Jyoti Basu or the left parties over the 35 years could create in this particular land? None. Because they were only busy in making comforts for their own political power. Do you know the very fact when the Birlas and the Ispats and most of the corporates have vanished from this particular place? Raton raat apna bori bistre uthakar chala gaya tha. Kyun chale gaye the? Because the left parties and the political forces here made, this may be the only land where Gheravo has made as a state policy that it has been allowed the people, the police, even to just be a bystander to look at and treated every businessman as a class different and a class enemy. That is where the mistake has done. I can only request you, look within yourself, look at the mirror. Every mirror will tell you, every time when you look at yourself, you will be telling you that your political leadership has failed the people of West Bengal. And that is where the people, the today's generation needs to rise up and look at their other, and my friend was talking about the cooperative federalism. If cooperative federalism and now competitive federalism is the word. Compete with Tamil Nadu, show your power. Compete with Karnataka, show your power. Compete with, if you don't have if the political leadership here do not have the power to compete with Gujarat, leave it. How about Maharashtra? Compete with them. Get the investment here. Don't cry. Look at yourself. And I can only say, West Bengal is the pride of the nation. And I feel that this state has the best potential to become once again the superpower amongst all the states, and federalism will be here, and cooperative federalism, India as a country will be there, a strong force. That is what is my first take. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Nambiar. You know, in the year 2004, Bengal made a very lasting contribution to the Oxford English Dictionary when the word gherao was incorporated in the Oxford English Dictionary in the lexicon of English words. So that is how significant our path to self-destruction was to some extent. Now, I think he has given enough material for Johorda to handle when he says that Bengal's ailments, Bengal's maladies, the cause of Bengal's sickness lies within. Johorda, is yours to counter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, friends. It's always nice to be in Calcutta during this time. It's terribly cold in Delhi. Our subject today is West Bengal is a victim. West Bengal is a victim of failed federalism. Mr. Nambiar spoke well, emotively. He started by questioning why we had two mics. First of all, we didn't choose it. Number two, if we didn't have two mics, because there one mic is more than enough for the press to pick it up. If they don't pick it up, they'll be raided by the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI the next morning. We need our voice to be expressed before sensible people. Nobody is here to defend the offenses, the depredations made by the left. No one in this assembly ever took part in a gherao. At the most, we may have been victims of gherao. So don't hold us collectively responsible for gherao. Gherao was a political mistake made by an adventurous left group, and Bengal cannot be condemned for the rest of its history because we suffered the most. The topic is failed federalism. Has federalism failed? When we talk of failure, we go beyond 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Federalism started in proper earnest form in 1935 with the Government of India Act with some rudimentary experiments. This was followed by the Niemeyer Award of division of income tax between center and states. And the center gave us 20% of our income tax because we had collected more than 20%, never mind. But soon thereafter, problems began. When we talk of federalism, we assume that was the first and last choice India had. Gentlemen who are old enough, like me, would remember that in 1947 we had an option. We had an option of joining with East Pakistan to form, it was not even East Pakistan, it was undivided Bengal to form an undivided state, an unified state. We had a choice of unification, which was led by Sharat Chandra Bose, which was led by Fazlul Haq and others. We had a choice, but never mind. We took the right decision, though Bangladesh's GDP is galloping higher than us. Never mind, these things happen with inefficient governments around. Now, we are not talking of who caused it. We are talking of did it fail. The regime of B.C. Roy, unfortunately, is both one of success and of depredations. Success in Durgapur and other steel plants and industries, as he said, but Dr. Roy was not able to contain the hegemonic instincts that were rolled out by the then Planning Commission and a benign Nehru, who allowed a lot of things to happen. Number one was freight equalization. All that meant was that all the advantages of Bengal, coal, steel, would be available at Bengal price in Trivandrum. But if I wanted cotton from Gujarat, I had to pay cotton plus freight. So I could not set up cotton industries well, but anybody could set up cotton industries based on coal and steel. So freight equalization finished us off beyond repair. And it is impossible to now go back and pin it down on one man or one regime. It was a collective decision. It failed us, but it was the central government that did it to us. There were other decisions also on income tax. We were suddenly slashed to 12%. Morning we get up and say, you are going to get 12%, that's all. And since then, finance commissions have been set up, the first one being with C.D. Deshmukh. Finance commissions are set up, and each one is going in for more populous states. Bengal's inability to produce enough children to match some of the population growth of some of the North Indian states is going to be a reason of our victimhood. Now, when refugees came, gentlemen and ladies, do you know that almost half the refugees who came from both ends of Pakistan, almost half came to West Bengal. Half, 40% came to West Bengal. We got 10% of central assistance, 10% of central assistance for looking after 40% of the refugees. The 90% was given to Delhi and surrounding areas. Why? Federalism is like a marriage relationship. Marriage has to be understood by people who are married. People who are married but don't accept marriage say that I didn't know what my spouse would be when I got married. Yeah, that applies to everyone. But people who don't understand a marriage will never understand federalism. It's a relationship of equals. It's a delicate relationship of equals. Bossism, socking on the nose doesn't happen, but that is exactly what is happening now. We are passing through the worst phase of federal imbalance. At every step, our monies are being stopped. Mr. Kalyan Banerjee mentioned about 2 lakh crores being withheld by a person whose class 10 certificate also we have not seen so far. I'm not talking of her entire political science. I'm only talking of class 10 certificate we haven't seen. Held back for no reason altogether. Our 100 days work program has been held back for 1 year. People are suffering. But political victimization is going on. Here is a hypocrite who spoke about central government as Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate, बातों की बात पर बोलते थे Delhi Sultanate. And today he is practicing a form of oppression, a form of hegemony that can hardly ever be compared. He has found his place in history next to Aurangzeb and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He has found his place in history. He talked about being deprived on Sardar Sarovar. He talked about the NCTC, National Counterterrorism Center. He said it's a central policing force happening. What is happening here? Half the state is looked after by the central police, the BSF. And the other half are looked after by bodyguards going around with opposition MPs and MLAs. Each of them carry about 4 or 6 of these bodyguards. I don't know whether you need status symbols, whatever be it. So here we are today caught at a time when a person whose ego matches his inefficiency and that matches his self-publicity. We are victims of a failed federalism that could be rescued. That could be rescued in the 21st century, but is going from bad to worse with deprivation. He comes here and organizes a function of Netaji by one of my friends around this place, and they spent 13 crores for one day at Victoria Memorial. I have got the figures. 13 crores means 6 lakh man days of work spent so that you can tom-tom him and show some laser visual on Victoria Memorial for 1 crore rupees, and that is never seen ever after. It does not belong to the people of Calcutta. Why are you going on with this glitzy publicity work? Why are you not concentrating on repairing your family relationship? We are equals, and that is what we need to understand. But to do that, you need breeding, you need a level of thought, you need education, and above all, you need a vision. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I hereby stand in favor of the motion that West Bengal is a victim of failed federalism, and more so under the area of an era that will be known as the most draconian that we have seen in hundreds of years. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jorda, thank you. I think it's been calculated multiple number of times that the amount of economic deprivation Bengal suffered from 1947 to probably 1965 has been absolutely crippling as far as the future fiscal character of the state is concerned. But having said that, Shobhanda, Mr. Johar Sarkar makes a point. 2 lakh crores are owed to the state. What would you do about it?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've been honored to hear 2 very, very passionate interventions from 2 distinguished members of parliament belonging to one particular party. One of them I've had the good fortune of knowing many number of years. The other one I've got to know in the Central Hall, where we've had very many convivial discussions, and his passion has often shown. Unfortunately today, he overwhelmed us with statistics. A mass of statistics. Unfortunately, I may be a bit dim, but I couldn't make head or tail of where it began and where it ended. Having heard both of them, I was often struck by an anecdote which I have heard from my college in Delhi. It was an alumni meeting, and whereupon one very, very distinguished member, a politician, come ambassador, come various things, he wrote in the visitor's book, "I am what I am thanks to the college." Whereupon an equally distinguished gentleman, who was also a minister, who was also a member of parliament, wrote below that, "Why blame the college?" Sir, we've heard a lot of stories about federalism, how the iniquitous federalism is comparable to that of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. I didn't know he had any federal structure. What is very important and very significant is that you would almost believe, after hearing these 2 interventions, that there is a separate federal law which exists for West Bengal, which is different from the federal laws which exist for the rest of India. Has there been a single constitutional amendment in Indian history, in recent history, which singles out West Bengal for either special treatment or special discrimination? It's exactly the same playing field. The playing field may be bumpy, the playing field may be full of potholes, the playing field may be even or uneven, but they are the same, whether it's for Maharashtra, whether it's for West Bengal, whether it's for Pondicherry, whether it's for Delhi or for Rajasthan. It's exactly the same. How people have done, within the context of what you might call a flawed federalism or a failed federalism, depends. India, I don't think in any way can be called a failed state. I don't think. however much you may hate the present dispensation, you cannot call India a failed state. India has progressed. Maybe we could have progressed far better. Maybe we could have galloping rate of growth, but we have progressed. And federalism is an inherent structure, a part of that progress. But if you really look at the whole scenario, let's take the case of Maharashtra and Bengal. And I want to use this because in 47, it was almost said whether Kolkata is superior or Bombay is superior was a matter of judgment. One went up, one went down. But at independent, Bengal's share of industrial production was 30%. Today, it is 3.5%. I don't think Maharashtra is at 3.5%. In 1960, Bengal's per capita income was 105% of that of Maharashtra. Today, it is not even half. Bengal has slipped to 15th position. And it's worth looking at it, that the gap with Maharashtra has increased by 1% each year for 35 years. Now, Maharashtra has the same federal laws as Bengal. Why did one do better and why did one do badly? We can call it a victim of monumental conspiracies. I think one of the great things about Bengal is we love conspiracies. We love conspiracies at every quarter. Everything is a conspiracy. And what was this conspiracy which happened? Was it a conspiracy of someone's politics? The choices which we made in Bengal were our own flawed imagination. It was not a choice which was dictated by someone else. But yet you call it a conspiracy. You call it a conspiracy that the Central Reserve Police is used for tax raids. Because we've also been told that you cannot have tax raids in one part of the city, because if you have tax raid and you find 30 crores or 40 crores of cash under someone's bed, that will actually drive away industrialists. It's a very strange logic we see. It's a very strange logic, but it's perfectly understandable. We also understand various things. We were told that Gherao is not inherent to Bengal. Gherao was the product of the left. And the left drove away people. Don't blame the Bengalis for it. I agree with you. I agree with Mr. Jawahar Sarkar. I agree also, therefore, that in 2006 and 7, when there was a movement in Singur and there was Tatas were driven out of the state, don't blame the Bengalis for it. Blame only one person for it. But as a result, Bengal is the great sufferer. Because in the choice which people have to take, Bengal becomes a blacklisted thing. It is not because of the constitution. It is because people's perception. And it is that perception which is very important. I think I would implore every one of you to realize one thing, that there are a lot of flaws in India. There are a lot of flaws. I think some of us realize it better than others. But one thing, unless we can actually look into ourselves, what Mr. Nambiar said, where have we succeeded and where have we failed? And if we blame the system for everything, it's the same system which operates everywhere. Recently, Professor Amartya Sen, a very distinguished Bengali, lamented, he normally doesn't lament very much, but he lamented that there was a time when Kolkata had 18 flights from London. It's causing him a great deal of inconvenience. I do recognize that. But did these 18 flights disappear because there was some central diktat? Or did these flights disappear because somehow Bengal became less and less relevant? And that people of this state, ordinary people of this state, not my big Marwari friends who have still their houses in Kolkata, but their capital in Bombay or Delhi. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about various people, including everyone here. How many of you have sons or daughters who've bought the proverbial one-way ticket out of the state? Whether they've gone to Manhattan or whether they've gone to Mumbai. It's that. That's not happening elsewhere. Because the traffic is going into Bangalore, the traffic is going into Chennai, the traffic is going into Delhi. And if you think, okay, we are not bothered about capital, we are not bothered about capitalism, we are a cerebral community, then look at the quality of education. The quality of education whereby if you put out a blank sheet of paper, you can get marks.
Sapunda, we'll have to wind up. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't hear the bell. But all I wish to state is it's all right. You can believe in conspiracies. You can believe that Bengal is a victim. But I believe that at the end of the day, Bengal is a victim of itself. And that is something we need to remedy, and only we can remedy it. Thank you very much.
Sapunda was characteristically incisive in its analysis of the self-inflicted wounds cast on ourselves. But he's left the matter of the pending 2 lakh crores, which I think he's going to answer in the second round, won't you? I think he will. Right. On that note, it's a pleasure this evening to introduce to you, I think, someone who's not spoken in the city before. I'm a great admirer of her speaking, a doctor, a dentist, an accomplished Bharatnatyam dancer, and one of the foremost speakers of the Indian National Congress. The tragedy being that Indian National Congress was called to be the perpetrator of the federal flaws till about a few years back, and now finds itself in the receiving end many a times. So I think speaking in Kolkata for the first time, Shama Mohammed. Shama, floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, Calcutta. First time here for me. Thank you so much, Kunalji, for inviting me. And lovely to be in Kolkata after many, many years. I can't tell you my story, why I was in Kolkata before. That's a long story, anyway, many years ago. I'm going to start on this particular topic. It's my first time here. I didn't know exactly what the setup is. But I'm going to go on into certain things on, victim. For me, after 2014, there are many victims, and it's about suppression of our federalism. India is a union of states, we all know that, and cooperative federalism is what we want, and that is what a particular man wanted before 2014, but it's changed after that. Now, Swapanda, before he left, said, Bengal is a victim of itself, and I will ask him, after the next assembly elections, if the Bharatiya Janata Party comes to power, whether he will say the same thing, Bengal is a victim of itself. I will come back to you, Swapanda, on that. So, a couple of things which I want to bring about is, one, in many ways, what we are seeing is federalism being crushed. I'm going to take on general things. Yes, Mr. PKD Nambiar spoke on the left very much in detail. I too come from the same state as Mr. PKD Nambiar and from the same district called Kannur, where of course I've also undergone harassment from the left, and 34 years of the left rule has left Bengal without investments, without anything. Now when we get into what happened for me after 2014, is let's look at some of the things which have changed. One, the GST which has come about. Why did the states give up the GST? Because they were promised, they were given a word that they will be compensated. Now what has happened is, let's understand some statistics. West Bengal also gave up its right, but it gave up 51.8% of its revenue, whereas the central government gave 28.8%. But the same GST is divided equally between the state and the center. And when it came to compensation, the states literally had to beg. Bengal was begging the center, we need our money, we need our revenue, why aren't you giving it to us? This, at that point, I'm not talking about this year, I'm talking about the last 4 years. The center would say, we don't have the money right now, we'll give it to you later. You borrow it from the markets. The state said, why don't you borrow? Why should I borrow? It's not mine. So this sort of tutu meme went on. My question is, why not just give the states their revenue? Why should somebody try to be the big brother here? Isn't it part of you? Aren't we all Indians? Aren't we all the same? Why should you segregate or separate the other state? Then let us look into what happened to certain weapons called ED. Let's look into the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which comes under it, and also the NIA. Who got in the NIA? The UPA in 2008 after the 2611 as a counter-terrorism unit. But what happened to NIA in 2019? It was amended. NIA can just be used to any now above the police. CBI needs consent from the state. The government central government has to get a consent from the state. If the state says no, the CBI cannot come, then it cannot. But here in Bengal or in any other states, the NIA can come. We know certain people were investigated, the ED was sent to them in 2017. But when those people jumped to the present party at the center, why did the ED stop investigating? So that affects federalism. That also affects what is happening in the state. Corruption can be anywhere. It can be in my party, in their party, or anywhere. But my question today is, why is that you dip into the Ganga when you join a particular party and then the investigation stops? So that also affects. Bengal and other states have become victim to these sort of ED, PMLA, NIA. As I said, the NIA Act changed in 2019, exactly how the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the ED, it can come to Bengal, to any other state, and question anybody for hours without your lawyer. So that, again, is a flaw here after 2000, which has affected this cooperative federalism. COVID, what happened during COVID? What is supposed to happen is states should have a word. What is going to happen? We had a lockdown in 4 hours. Was anything discussed with states? Was the Bengal chief minister spoken to? Or for that matter, the Maharashtra chief minister spoken to? Nobody. So that, again, we had a lockdown in 4 hours. How did that happen? Let's take I'm going to take the Chief Minister's Fund and something called the PM Cares. There, the CSR funds were given and a tax break was given to these organizations or companies. But at the same time, in the CM Fund, which the CM also wanted, for example, in West Bengal and other states, but no tax breaks given. Again, why is that? Why not treat everybody the same? If there's a tax break on a PM Care fund, why not a tax break on this Chief Minister's Fund? They're also doing the same thing, helping out COVID victims in the state. We need to function as one when it comes to these things. The other thing which is very important is, again, with Bengal, you also have farmers, and just like every other state, you had the farm laws. What happened? Was it discussed with anybody? Because I'm not looking into just one particular state now. I'm talking about how federalism is crushed after 2019. You had the farm laws, we all remember. Everybody, every minister of the particular central government said that we have discussed with each and everybody. It was discussed with the farmer unions, it was discussed with opposition, with everyone. RTI reply. What was the RTI reply? There was no discussion. No discussion has happened. So why was a farm law passed without any discussion with anyone? Is that cooperative federalism? We know agriculture is a state subject. Shouldn't that be discussed with the state or not? Isn't that against the state? So this sort of things then of course again I will be questioned for it because I come from a particular party, but the governor, how are the governors used? You know what happened in West Bengal before the present governor became the vice president. Governor is there to ease things out. But again, governor, just like here, is also used as a weapon in my state, Kerala. So that has become now the governor, just like in West Bengal, in Kerala, is also being removed as the chancellor because everyday intrusion into various things. So what I'm trying to put over here is that it's not just Bengal. It's not about victimhood, but it is what has happened, how federalism is crushed after 2019 from various aspects we have seen and also let me tell you one last point, funds to states. If the state does not behave well, maybe the Priyam Awas Yojana does not go to that state. I remember the Odisha CM saying that I sent a letter in 2019, 20 and 21 for 60,000 houses. Sorry, 6 lakh houses. I'm not able to get it. But then they said the portal was closed. For Karnataka, because the central government, same party was there, it was open. So my point today to them is that why this differentiation and why we cannot be one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shazia. Actually, the farm laws were introduced, I think, as an ordinance, as a part of the emergency legislation that came out as a part of the post-COVID package. The farm laws were included in the post-COVID set of ordinances that were initiated without discussion. Right, yes, absolutely correct. That agriculture remains to be a state subject. So Shama has outlined many telling examples as how repeatedly the center oversteps into the state domain because separation of the central list, the state list and the concurrent list should remain the basic grammar on which our federal constitution is based. And we are extremely eager to listen to the take Ognimitra would have about it. Ognimitra, the floor is yours.
A very good evening to the lovely audience present here, and thanks to Calcutta Club, Telegraph and Dr. Kunal Sarkar for making me part of this prestigious debate. I'll be speaking against the motion that is Bengal is a victim of failed federalism. একটা কবিগুরু রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুরের ওই গানটা মনে পড়ছে, বিধির বাঁধন কাটবে তুমি এমন শক্তিমান, তুমি কি এমন শক্তিমান, আমাদের ভাঙা গড়া তোমার হাতে এমন অভিমান, চিরদিন টানবে পিছে চিরদিন রাখবে নিচে, এত বল নাই রে তোমার সবে না সেই টান। I wonder, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and his team, when they were writing the Constitution, whether they heard about this song of Kobiguru Rabindranath Tagore. But true that our Constitution has bound the states with the union government in such a strong, invisible bond, which is very, very difficult to break. The members of the Constituent Assembly were very cautious of not using the word center or central government in the Constitution, as they intended to keep away the tendency of centralizing of powers in one unit. After independence, every state in India started their journey forward towards development, taking the Constitution as the guardian, as their partner. Development means employment, and employment means industrialization. And that time, when Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was the industry minister, West Bengal was among the leading states in the context of industrialization. Another state which was extremely developed was Bombay Pradesh, which is today's Maharashtra and Gujarat. Maharashtra and Gujarat today have maintained their development graph. Another new state has come up, which is not a BJP ruled state, it's a regional party ruled state, and that is Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has 4 times the industry that of West Bengal today. Maharashtra and Gujarat has 3 times the industry that of West Bengal today. So we started the journey together. Then why did we falter? There were many reasons. And one of the reasons was, in the 50s, the freight equalization policy, which gave the first blow to the state. There were other reasons. Lack of infrastructure. And the main thing, left government's anti-industry policy. Every day we woke up to Hartal, Bandh, Gherao. And by the time, at the end of 34 years, when the left government realized that they had to change their policy to pro-government, today's government and the then opposition questioned their land policy and destroyed their effort. I want to ask you one question. When parents have 2 children and they are giving the same infrastructure, same facility, same school, same tutor to both the children, one excels and the other fails, then whose fault it is? By the end of CPM government, TMC government came up, and it can be best explained by Shukumar Rai's one poem, which I want to tell it in front of you. Right now, what is happening in West Bengal, শিব ঠাকুরের আপন দেশে আইন কানুন সর্বনেশে কেউ যদি পা পিছলে পড়ে পেয়াদা এসে পাকড়ে ধরে কাজীর কাছে হয় বিচার 21 টাকা দণ্ডটার. Crores of money are being sent from the center to the state for the upliftment of the poor, the destitute, through the yojnas, through the projects. But this money is not reaching the poor. It is being stolen by this corrupt government. Is stealing written in the Constitution? I want to ask Mr. Banerjee, Mr. Sarkar, is it there in the Constitution? You are questioning about failed federalism when your money is being stopped by the center. You have the audacity to change the name of the projects. Why? There are certain rules you need to follow. There is Orissa, which is also a non-BJP government state. They have been following all rules, and the people are getting benefit of that. When we talk about industrialization, for employment we need industrialization, and for industrialization we need peace. But today's West Bengal, when we wake up in the morning with the sound of bomb, from 8 to 80, 6 to 60, people are getting killed, children are getting killed in bombs, arms and ammunition. And when we ask why. When we ask for the help from the central government, why can't the NIA intervene? Then West Bengal government cries of blame game of failed federalism. Today also the Honorable Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah ji, was in Calcutta. He spoke at length to the state government. 72 BSF chowkis aren't being given the land, repeatedly being asked from the state government. Why aren't you giving the land? BSF is there to protect West Bengal and in turn protect the people of India. We can understand why state government is reluctant not to give the fencing in the international border. The business, the flourishing business of cow smuggling, fake currency, fentanyl, drugs, how will it be possible? So, left has also done the same thing. They have repeatedly opposed the central government, and the same thing is being done by this government. Sometimes I wonder whether West Bengal is a country or is it a state? When a bill becomes a law, it should be followed by all states of the country. But over here, the government says, no, I will not allow CAA in West Bengal. Do you have the power to do that? And you cry of failed federalism? Our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has always been given stress and importance to federal structure. Recently, when India took over the presidency of G20, Honorable Prime Minister called all the chief ministers and they had a meeting to exchange ideas. We had the Planning Commission, which has been replaced by Niti Aayog, which is there to give support to the states, and it is not like before, forcing your decisions on the state. It is about a relationship of cooperation and partnership. But some people never realize, and the wicked never listens to the wise. Some people never understand that a strong India needs a strong state, and a weak West Bengal makes a weak India. Some people have their own agenda of going against the central government and specifically going against Mr. Narendra Modi ji at the cost of being against the country. I want to end my talk with Winston Churchill's few lines, which says, when there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. So let's stand up and let's build a federal structure of cooperation and understanding so that Gokhaleji's that saying, what Bengal thinks today, India thinks tomorrow, once again becomes true. Thank you so much.
Well spoken, Ognimitra. And you were absolutely forthright, clear-cut. But since you mentioned Winston Churchill, I'll tell you a story about Winston Churchill that fresh from his victory over, part of the Allied forces in the Second World War, Churchill was so confident and smug in the forthcoming elections that he didn't even go out to campaign. He said, I've got the better of Hitler. I'm the victor of the Second World War. Do I need to go out to the constituency and campaign that, you have to re-elect me as your prime minister? Churchill thought that was given. 3 months before the general elections in UK, came out the promise of free health care. Labour floated the proposal for free health care that was called the Beveridge Report. And both Conservatives and Winston Churchill, Hitler was forgotten, Second World War was forgotten, and just on the great freebie of the beverage report and free health care, Winston Churchill was vanquished. Such is the power of political populism. And since we have ended with healthcare right now, who better to take the floor? Our dear friend, coming up as the last speaker in the regular round for the proposition, Dr. Shundeep Chatterjee. Shundeep, fire away.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I'm going to start with a disclosure. As a man of biology, I'm aware that the Gramineae cyperacea, the name for the common grass called trino in Bengali, does not have any blue and white part, nor does the Nelambo nucifera, the lotus, produce a saffron flower. So what I'm going to tell you is not going to be through a blue film or through saffron sunglasses, but from a point of political neutrality, born out of my conviction that if one leans to the right or to the left, one is no longer left upright in the end. The motion before us today says that Bengal is a victim of failed federalism. We have nothing against the center. We have even less against the state. What this motion seeks to castigate is the relationship between the center and the state, constitutionally called federalism, which has failed and left us in Bengal as victims of this failure. The best biological analogy I can quote is that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. And if I tell you, if you have two elephants from two different tribes, as we've had in West Bengal for all but 23 of the 75 years of existence as a state, two elephants from two different tribes, one at the center, one at the state, vying for the same piece of grassland, then their relationship of federalism becomes combative. And when you have two elephants in combat, you and I, the common Bengali, is bound to be the victim of their combat. And that is the sum and substance that we have from this side of the floor. The word federalism comes from the word fidus in Latin, which means agreement. And an agreement has to be on equal terms. But when the makers of our Constitution framed the federal structure of this land, they decided there would be not true federalism, but what would be called a central federalism. So amongst two equals, one more equal than the other. This was born out of necessity because there were secessionist tendencies at that time. There was a bloody amputation of the two flanks of India, which we politely called a partition. So the unequal centralized federalism that was planned was one where the Union Parliament had the right to reconstruct and create state boundaries, legislate on state subjects in certain conditions. In a deadlock between union and state laws, union laws prevailed. The union list far outnumbered the subjects on the state list, and economic powers and resource allocations lay with the center, not with the state. Fine when you had the center and the state belonging to the same tribe of elephants. But when you had the center belonging to one tribe and the state belonging to another tribe, as I said, we've had for more than 50 of the 75 years, then obviously the two elephants never saw eye to eye. We've heard learned colleagues on the other side talking about two-engine trains that makes our states function better. It is my humble contention from this side that in the two-engine trains, when you have the two-engine drivers drive in opposite directions, both the engine drivers and the engines remain perfect. It's the passengers in the compartments in between that fall off the tracks. And that is what is happening to Bengal and has been happening to Bengal. Mr. Chairman, sir, Apart from being legal victims, Bengalis have been victims of politics, economics, healthcare, and even bureaucratic victims of failed federalism. Start with the name, West Bengal. We never had East Punjab, but we had West Bengal, so that Bengal remained the last state in the alphabetical order. And of course, Bengal obliged by having a lot of our industrial investments and economic narratives to match our alphabetical position over the years. What about grass? Forget about grass. What happens to trees and shrubs when two elephants of two tribes fight? I'm talking about the bureaucracy. I'm talking about the police. In this state, we've had chief ministers sitting in dharna in favor of an IPS officer. We've had the center launching a personal vendetta against an IAS officer, a vendetta which could have been solved by conversation. In Bengali, conversation is called alapon. But you know, we could have solved it by simple conversation. We solved it by confrontation. And our bureaucrats and our police have suffered because of this unequal distribution of power between the center and the state, which we call federalism. So we have had in Bengal more people held to ransom in our cities by political rallies. We've had more of our villagers in Bengal dragged to the Maidan and the zoo to then hear big political leaders give speeches in the Maidan than any other people in any other state in this country have. Ladies and gentlemen, in a country where democracy refers to by the people, but by the people is now spelled B-U-Y, I can't but tell you that the Bengali has also suffered because of economic deprivation. Take the dearness allowance story. The poor Bengali doesn't get dearness allowance because he works for the state. The state says we can't pay it because the center hasn't given us so many lakh crores of money. The center says we give them money, they don't utilize it, we give the same money to the other state. Doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. The poor Bengali goes home without his DA all the same. That is our contention about why the Bengali has been a victim of failed federalism. Look at other things. Look at national awards. Nobody from this state has ever been proposed by our government for a national award, our Padma Awards. Maybe they thought Padma refers to lotus and that's why they didn't refer. But they haven't referred anybody for 20 years. What have we done? So we have to set up, we get state awards, which are a surrogate application of failed federalism all over again. Look at the National Crimes Bureau. West Bengal stops in the list of states where politics has been used as a motive for murder. Whether it's Nandigram or Manijhupi, whether it's Birbhum or Kuch Bihar, that's irrelevant. The point is we have more political murders in this state than any other state. And you know we needn't have it for 4 years in the last 30. And those 4 years were 72 to 76 when we had the same government at the center and at the state. That is the worst testimony to failed federalism in this state, because we've had so many people in this state that have died because of this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you this. The problem we feel from this side, to sum up, is that the relationship between the center and the state, which we call federalism, has completely failed us, the common Bengali. You have heard about Mr. Amit Shah being here, the Right Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. Because of failed federalism and because he's thought of being in an slightly combative ground when he comes to Calcutta, all the roads are clogged up and all you members of the Calcutta Club arrived late to the debate today. Again, a victim of failed federalism. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my contention from this side of the floor, from my teammates, that federalism has failed in India because as far as Bengal and the state is concerned, the relationship between Bengal and the Union for most of our independent existence should have been the relationship between a benevolent mother and a daughter. It has become the relationship between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. And of course, you know, when there is a conflict between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law, Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code says it's the daughter-in-law that has to be the victim. And that's what has happened in this state. We have had a failure of any form of structural federalism, and this has impacted our lives as people in Bengal. We have failed, this has failed, and we have suffered and become victims because this federalism should have been based on cooperation, has been based on collision. It should have been based on compromise. It has been based on combat. It should have been based on caring. It has been based on coercion. And that is why you and I are the victims of this failed federalism. Thank you very much.
Certainly very well spoken. And just to add a little bit of historical nuance to it, when you say that the federalism in India, the construct was intentionally disbalanced, you know, one being more equal than the other, that is exactly the point on which the Cabinet Mission Plan of 1947 May was rejected. We became independent, and Jinnah's proposal of Cabinet Mission Plan 1947, that federal plan was rejected because very consciously both Sardar Patel and Jawaharlal Nehru were very aware of the fact that India had to have a center which was manifestly more powerful than the states, but whether being more powerful means less caring, that is a different theorem. And on that theorem, we invite to the podium Shazia Ilmi. Shazia, the floor is yours.
It's wonderful to be here this nippy evening. Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson, fellow speakers, and the most wonderful audience. I'm listening to this very intently and closely, and I hear all the arguments. Is West Bengal a victim of failed federalism? Well, West Bengal definitely is a victim, but it is a victim of failed governance, which is being bandied out as failed federalism. When I was offered this topic to speak on, I actually thought about it, and I thought I could actually speak for the motion. Because if indeed some believe that West Bengal is a victim of failed federalism, I must tell them that federalism is a two-way street. Yes. First things first, Article 1 of Constitution of India. India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Yes, just like I said, it takes two to tango, and Mamta Didi, this is not a republic of West Bengal. It is a state within Bharat, the rest of India. And it is the Chief Minister of this wonderful state, Honorable Mamta Didi, who actually says that I do not accept this Prime Minister, and I'm not ready to accept him as the Prime Minister of my country. He has an expiry date, and I will later on speak to the actual Prime Minister, whoever she might be. Is that the spirit of federalism we are talking about? Look at the disdain towards federalism displayed in West Bengal by Mamta Didi. Like I said, and Jawahar Das said very succinctly, it is a marriage, indeed. But it has to be a marriage of equals, isn't it? And an agreement. So, is constantly disrespecting and threatening constitutional authorities, is that a sign of federalism? Deliberately violating all that the constitutional responsibility of a state entails, is that in the spirit of federalism? Is calling, just like Akhil Giri, spoke about the President, Draupadi Murmu, and commented on her looks. Is this in the spirit of federalism? Is calling the governor, I'm talking obviously about the former governor, Dhankarji, is calling him as an agent of the center, running Pegasus from Raj Bhavan and snooping everyone else. Is that federalism? So I don't know what you understand from federalism, my dear friends, but it is, and I want to bring to you not rhetoric, not great examples, not poetry from here and there. I will simply talk about the facts as they've happened and all the statements that we've heard again and again. And yes, I would like to go back to the fact that when the chief minister of a state refuses to accept the constitutional authority, the elected prime minister of the country, do you think a cooperative federalism or a smooth federalism can even survive? हर एक बात पे तू कहता है कि तू क्या है? तुम ही बताओ ये अंदाज़े गुफ्तगू क्या है? So constantly demeaning and violating every authority, constitutional and otherwise, and rebuking and challenging the EC, CRPF, BSF, the judiciary, CBI, NIA, ED, the governor, and what have you. I mean, do you expect federalism again to be a one-way street? भाई ताली दोनों हाथों से बजती है. So when the comments like, and Kalyan Da here, right here, has actually said this, and I want to say it directly to him. The former governor was actually not just heckled, but threatened, and said that right now we can't do anything to you because you're a governor, but you will not be governor forever. See what we do to you. See how we harass you, have legal cases against you in every thana there is. Is that federalism of any kind? You know, elections happen, we win elections, we lose elections. But have you heard of any other state where women are raped, Dalit girls are raped, and some senior citizens raped in front of their grandsons only because of their political affiliations, only because they have not voted TMC? Is that the spirit of federalism we are talking about, my friends? I don't know. I don't know what on earth we are talking about if we talk about Bengal being a victim of failed federalism. My request, and a humble request, is the chief minister here can take on the prime minister and make it a raison d'etre. Make everything about the prime minister and the hatred that comes with it. But why? Why make the ordinary, simple citizens of West Bengal suffer? So I think this whole victimhood is becoming such a syndrome, and the perpetrator actually is crying out victimhood. Whether it's skipping of meetings by the Prime Minister, whether it's skipping COVID meetings, whether it's asking the Chief Secretary not to be present, whether it's not just receiving the Prime Minister when he visits your state, but not even allowing senior officers to be there, whether participating in Niti Aayog, even virtually, whether attacking the convoy of JP Nadda and other opposition leaders only because they're campaigning for their respective parties, whether it's attacking the political leaders continuously and having on your watch the murders of RSS and BJP workers and turning a blind eye. Is that the spirit of federalism? These are very serious questions, and I think answers are needed. And there's another fact that I want to bring to all of you. Like I said, elections happen everywhere. Do you ever see the violence that is unleashed upon the people or upon the state? So I would like to just ask for accountability and the definition of what is federalism according to the propositioners of the motion. Somebody talked about the farm laws. Well, agriculture is on the concurrent list, as we all know. But do you know that a beneficiary Kisan, a Kisan who is a beneficiary or a farmer, is being given 6,000 rupees as Kisan Samman Nidhi? And do you know that poor farmer of West Bengal was only denied this Rashi, this amount, because of the personal hostility that the CM has with the Prime Minister. And 72 lakh farmers actually had to register themselves in order to be beneficiaries of the scheme. Kunal Da is here. He will tell us actually what are the COVID figures, what happened during COVID, why was there no reporting. I can go on and on, my time is up, but my friends, I would implore most seriously that it's all right to have this animosity, this belligerence against the Prime Minister. And it's also all right to spread canards about the so-called victimhood. But please do not deprive your constituents, your people, only because of your ego problems. And yes, for federalism to prevail, there has to be mutual respect, which I said does not happen unilaterally. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Shazia, thank you. I've just been informed from the floor that the young interjectors are getting very impatient with some burning questions. So Pradeep and Boyjik, are you ready?
Yeah. Yes, we are ready. And
so, wait a minute. So slight change. We are a bit behind time. We'll take 2 questions per side, okay, before we come to the summing up.
Firstly, a very good evening to one and all present here. This is Moinak Biswas from Delhi Public School, Ruby Park. My question is to Mr. Banerjee from the proposition panel today. Sir, considering the statistics on economic disparity that you provided us with, would you say that this really affects the federalism, or does this reduced GDP really affect the corrupted people of Bengal, considering that crores of this lost GDP were found at Dr. Partho Chatterjee's house?
Statistics have been given to substantiate the facts, how the Bengals have been deprived by the central government, right from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to up to Narendra Modi, in the midst, Manmohan Singh. That is substantiated. I do not understand why Shopunda has taken the responsibility of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Dr. Manmohan Singh, when they are every day, they are blaming in the floor of parliament, India's economy was not established up to the level since Congress has failed it to establish it. Why are they taking the responsibility?
I think that's a fair answer. Moinak, I think your question has been answered. And if you refer to the last report of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Economics, you will get the data that West Bengal's fiscal deficit still remains in the 3.6, 3.9% mark, which a lot of states have not. So we get your point, but I think look up more data on West Bengal's state of economics of late. Who has a question for the... is this question for the opposition?
Yes.
Please,
No,
go ahead. Identify yourself.
It's for the proposition.
For the proposition. So the next 2 questions will have to be for them. So please identify yourself and fire away.
I'm Nikhilesh Mukherjee from La Martiniere for Boys, and my question is towards the opposition as a whole. So,
to the
opposition as a whole, anyone can answer.
Proposition as a whole.
Proposition
Yeah, they are as a whole, don't worry.
Okay. So the Indian Constitution clearly sets down that the central government has comparatively greater authority than the state government. So today, when side proposition characterizes federalism as a collaborative relationship between two equals, do you attribute the failure of this federalism to the inadequacies of any central government? Or do you find fault with the very idea of practicality of federalism and the Indian constitution itself?
Very good question. But as you have noticed for the discussion, either way it doesn't matter. The topic is, have we been a victim of failed federalism? The entire House agrees that federalism has failed. Not a single person has said federalism has succeeded. So it's a question of only apportioning the blame, whether it was partly to the Constitution.
They haven't agreed. They haven't agreed. Yes,
You have more than agreed, and now you can retract.
Yes.
No, I was going to answer that question by saying it's all about taking a dog for a walk in the park. What would have been ideal federalism is if you took your dog for a walk in the park without a leash, but you had a whistle, so you whistled and he came, made sure he didn't run out of the park. But what is the federalism that we've had between Bengal and the center for most of the last 75 years is we've had a man take his dog for a walk on a tight leash, the tightness of which has been inversely proportional to their political similarities.
I think only Dr. Shundeep Chatterjee can put it that way. Yes, young lady, please go ahead. Identify yourself.
I am Shirsha Banerjee from Garden High School. My question is directed to Mr. PKD Nambiar from the opposition panel. Although you said that Bengal's heritage has been declining over the past 60 years, is it not in the motion that Bengal has been referred to as is and not was a victim of failed federalism?
She wants you to focus on the present state of Bengal.
Yes.
Yeah. Rather than what has happened.
Well, I think is or was, it doesn't matter. We live, I always believe that the politics is all about for the welfare of the people. When we elect an elected government, the expectation from that government is to ensure that the welfare of the people is being taken care for a progressive society. I thoroughly enjoyed the first question by the young boy. I feel that is the question of the youth of the entire country, and especially of West Bengal, that why have we failed? And one more thing, what I like the entire panel, one particular quote I liked the most, and I think that will answer you very well. Mr. Sandeep ji said, the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law approach. Let us assume for a minute the mother-in-law is a bad mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law is the best, just for an argument's sake, since we are in a debate platform. The question is that mother-in-law has got 28 daughter-in-laws and no other daughter-in-law have any complaint. No other city other than Calcutta is talking about the failed federalism. Why the Orissa is progressing, but not the West Bengal? Why the Orissa is all able to get all the investment?
PKD.
Why not the West Bengal?
We get your point.
is complaining.
PKD, we don't. We get your
Jharkhand
point.
is complaining.
No, yeah. Shama doesn't agree. I don't know whether...
Son is complaining. It's not just one daughter-in-law. Many daughters-in-law are complaining, and I know it. And I've got most of them, including Kerala, Tamil Nadu, even now Telangana has come out, even Odisha, everybody. Telangana used to be Punjab. Every daughters-in-law are complaining at this point.
We get
even
the point.
those daughters-in-law who were friends with them, those daughters-in-law also was very close to the mother-in-law, now is crying. No, we don't want this mother-in-law.
Wait a minute. Look, what question?
Very fundamental question. What is that you are crying for? Is it for the welfare of the people? Is the current government or the previous government, did they have any plan? Do they have a plan? If you have the plan, present it. Why are you crying? If you deserve anything, why, if the Orissa government, which has been the opposition government from the last 25 years, they don't have any complaint. When was the last time you heard a cry?
Duty of the center or the mother-in-law to take care of her daughters-in-law. It is the duty of the mother-in-law
Look,
to
you know,
set
on
the
a
house
lighter
in
note,
order.
unless-
it
It
is
is
even
not the
said,
duty of the
there is,
daughters-in-law.
if a
The
good
mother-in-law
daughter-in-law
has to set the house
behave
in
like a
order.
daughter,
Mother-in-law,
a good
जब हम घर
daughter-in-law
जाते हैं,
behave like a daughter.
The mother-in-law has to
please,
set the house in order, not the daughters and daughters-in-law are accepted
Shaba,
by the mother-in-law and has to keep the
Shaba,
house.
please. This is not the 9 o'clock news, right? So, please, yeah. So this is not the 9 o'clock news. And for a change in Calcutta Club debate, we have a lot of young people. You will put them off from getting married at this rate, you know. So this debate has more than 300 in the audience who are students. So like getting married is not as bad as this, okay? Fine. So come up with your question.
Good evening, distinguished speakers. I'm Abhishekta Paul from La Martiniere for Girls, Calcutta. My question is directed to Mr. Nambiar from side opposition. Sir, you asked the youth of Calcutta to stop crying and stand up. Now, considering the fact that the political party that forms the central government unjustly arrested 21-year-old climate activist Disha Ravi for doing just that, how exactly do you justify your statement?
Right. Very precise. Yes.
My dear friend, I have a young daughter who is here. So I can understand such kind of questions have to come from the students. But the very fact is that somebody who stand up in the name of freedom of speech and liberty can do anything and everything. Every freedom and the freedom of speech and the liberty has got its own limitation and bindation. And I personally believe this country has got one of the finest judicial system and a vibrant democracy, and no one can act against anyone unilaterally unless and until kahin na kuch nahi hoga to. And in the case of Disha Ravi, I have at least participated in multiple times. It has been a practice over the last several decades in many places that political parties, irrespective of which side, do act against people or do act against the voices, irrespective of, I'm not for BJP or for that matter to any other party. I think that needs to go for an end. There is no doubt. I will not look into the merit of what you said as the climate warrior. That may not be really true. Putting up a social media post as that I love green does not mean that will not make an individual a climate warrior. We have been seeing in the last couple of weeks the number of real climate warriors have been given from Orissa or from the Chhattisgarh or in the tribal belt who love the trees. They are the real climate warriors. Not putting up a post in the social media will not make somebody a climate warrior.
I think perhaps many of us will agree to disagree on that point. Ram, yes, please identify yourself quick.
Good evening. I'm Ram Daftari from Birla High School. Now, I must say, unfortunately, this debate has turned into a blame game. And my question is to Ms. Mohammed, because she was so particularly prominent in bashing the center. My question is, why does the proposition not accept that the state of Bengal today is a product of mutual failure on both the state and the center's parts?
Right. Okay.
That's not the issue. The central issue is, has it failed? That's all. We are not getting into a diagnosis on a prognosis on who failed and what failed. We are talking of a failed federalism on which there is total agreement despite retraction to the contrary now, and also that Bengal is a victim of that failed federalism. That's all. So who contributed to it, who didn't contribute to it, किसने मारा किसी को, अरे भाई वो तो अपने आप पर खींच लेते हैं. Well, that's the point.
I think that's a fair
They
point.
don't deserve so much honor.
The last question for the evening, please.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ananya Tulsian from Mahadevi Birla World Academy. My question is directed towards Mrs. Paul from the opposition panel. It was mentioned that Bengal as a state refuses to abide by the law stated under the CAA bill. Now, Bengal is a state that shares borders with another nation, unlike the frequently mentioned states of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So how do you think it is fair in regards to the situation of Maharashtra, in situation of West Bengal?
See, the CAA is a law right now. The rules are yet to be framed and it will be followed by all the states. CAA is about the 6 religions that you know. And our country was divided on the basis of religion. So that way even Maharashtra will follow it, West Bengal will also follow it. Everybody needs to follow it. So our Honorable Chief Minister can't really say that I will not allow CAA to be implemented in West Bengal. That is what I wanted to say in my speech.
Shobanda wants to add.
Yeah, I just want to make a small intervention. I think many of the people from the proposition mentioned the outstanding refugee problem of Bengal, that how it has been discriminated against, how the central funds did not come in.
Refugee problem?
One of the features of this discrimination was the fact that many of the refugees, a large number of refugees, who came fleeing religious persecution, and I think everybody recognizes that, did not get citizenship. And I think CAA was an attempt to correct that historical anomaly and now give them citizenship. It has unfortunately been transformed into something else and in terms of how it's projected. And I'm sorry to say that the questioner has been a victim of that misrepresentation.
Can I intervene just one second? First, we didn't talk about the refugee problem, and as he spoke about the CAA, I agree with him, but then I asked the question, why wasn't Sri Lanka there in that?
Yeah.
Sri Lanka has a minority, Tamil minority, they are also Hindus, but the problem is that Sri Lanka has another minority.
You can talk about the inclusion. You can certainly talk about the inclusion of the Tamil minority.
Thank you, Shobanda,
but certainly that doesn't preclude the legitimacy of what has been done.
No, there are more tricky issues because you would find it one hell of a lot of struggle to implement that in that format, say in Assam. It's not going. Assam is very different. Assam is very different. So talk about federalism.
Assam was the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Assam is in the Supreme Court. So CAA getting into Assam is going to be jolly difficult. On that note, ladies, and thank you. Thank you to all the young boys and girls. You've done fantastically well. Wish we'd gone on for a little bit longer. On that note, as the evening rolls on, we will get into a very brief rebuttal round. For the sake of simplicity, we'll follow the same order in which we started. So, Kulanda, your rebuttal round of 3 minutes. Please rebut the points that you've heard being spoken this evening.
I am having the privilege to deliver my political speech in another platform recognized by the Constitution. Therefore, I am not delivering any political speech. If you are having hard facts, evidence and the statistics, the weaker party always go on extempo speech to beat the stronger party. That has been done. Now the West Bengal never asked for special treatment. West Bengal has claimed the equal treatment with Goa, with Maharashtra, with Odisha and everyone. Right from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Dr. Manmohan Singh, then Modi, Narendra Modi, only 8 years. 47 years have been blamed for the failure of the Congress government. Now, right from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Bengal is the victim. Bengal all the time, stepmotherly attitude have been taken by the central government towards the Bengal. Not for 8 years, long for 52 years. This has been done to the Bengal itself. Now, time has been ripen to say from their side, I am just quoting from Tagore because time is very little. I am a dull-headed man. I need more time. Anyway, time I have to say from the Rabindranath Tagore. Even the time has been ripen to say from the central government, whoever it may be who is opposing this motion, that the Bengal is not victim. Bengal is not victim, what they are saying. And Bengal is the victim. Repeatedly, Rabindranath Tagore says, Ashanna Sandhar Shesh Roshri Pate, Danao oi মান হারা মানবীর দ্বারে, বলো ক্ষমা করো হিংসা ও প্রলাপের মধ্যে সেই হোক তোমার সভ্যতার শেষ পুণ্যবাণী। नरेंद्र मोदी जी आप दिखाइए आज, बहुत बोलता है आप, बहुत बोल लिया, अब ये तो आ जाइए और बोलिए बंगाल का पास 200 सीट लेने के लिए आए थे, 200 मिनिस्टर लेने के आए थे, उसका बाद नहीं आया है। इधर आके बंगाल में क्षमा मांगिए और बोलिए जो जो हुआ हम क्षमा मांगते हैं, क्षमा चाहता है, क्षमा चाहता है।
Thank you. If we have a debate, Rabindranath could never be, but Rabindranath going hand in hand with Narendra Modi is a very dramatic end to a great rebuttal. PKD, quick, your 3 minutes.
इतना गर्मी कम से कम डेवलपमेंट में दे लिया होता, बंगाल और कहीं पे पहुंच गया होता और कंपैरिजन करके टाइम वेस्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं होता। ये जो गर्मी है पार्लियामेंट के अंदर वो भाषण देने में लगाने की जगह अपने कुर्सी पे बैठकर जनता के बारे में सोचो, यू थिंक अबाउट द पीपल एंड डिलीवर व्हाट यू हैव प्रॉमिस्ड इंस्टेड ऑफ किलिंग द पीपल। Let me ask the very few fundamental questions, and that should be the takeaway of this debate today. Why the political killings have not been going over? Bengal has taken a decision to leave the left into the Bengal Ocean. We have elected a new government in the name of Mamata Banerjee. In fact, I used to be a very great fan of her when she was the Youth Congress president. As a kid, I used to really like her combative spirit. But is that combative spirit only to combat, but not to deliver the result? But despite the left rule in which she combated and came into power, why so many people have been brutally killed? Why so many people after the election had to leave the state and go to the Assam? Question. Number two, even though West Bengal had all advantages of being as I said earlier, that being the first commercial capital of India, the first IT park, why Bengalis have to go to Bangalore or Hyderabad or in the south of India to do the software job when the first IT park was happened in this particular very state? I think that these needs to be answered. Then I also ask you this question, sir, rather than what is the right size of your economy today? What is the kind of plan you have to make this state to a vibrant, progressive state? What is the plan for you to make the #1 state, West Bengal as the #1 state in the country? What is the way you are going to get, rather than making a tamasha of a vibrant or some kind of an investor summit, tell me in the last 7-8 years, the number of investor summit you have done, how many manufacturing plants have come up? Why Foxconn or the China, the people wanted to leave the China and come to India when the Foxconn is building its semiconductor plant? Why are they not even looking at you even in one option? Look at yourself. I think the change of political mindset, I am not saying that you need to change the government. I am saying that this government has the power. This government, if they have the right, will, without complaining, work for the people. Why Ayushman Bharat? You are talking about the whole federalism. When the Ayushman Bharat was introduced and all the states have wholeheartedly, openly accepted it and implemented it, why the people of Bengal is not being given the benefit of Ayushman Bharat? I think you don't love the people of Bengal. What you love is to complain and the agitative, that combative idea to practice so that you can remain in power forever. I think the time has come to be a competitive federalism, be the best, and to be the best, you have to start acting today. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Johorda.
I'll speak only on one speaker, Mr. Shapun Dashkut, my good old friend. I have heard him speak the truth for the first time today, after a long time. When he said he doesn't understand head or tail of what we said, all the statistics. He doesn't understand head or tail. It's a confession, because we are not asking for a special federal law. We never asked for it. We asked for just equitable treatment, that's all. We asked for the same allocation that other states get. So you want to know why we are failing? Why we are failing during this zamana? We are failing because you are being miserly, you are being hegemonic, and you are being unfair. That's all. We are not asking for anything special. You said India is not a failed state. Nobody raised this question. But India has failed as a state. It has failed in press freedom, the whole world knows it. It has failed in gender equality, the whole world knows it. It has failed in the hunger index, the whole world knows it. And there are lots of other failures that India has, but that is not the centrality of the topic. Why do you raise this almost inane question of Gheraos? Have you heard of any Gherao in the last 10 years? We are talking of, since you are raising the topic to the last 10 years, when did you hear of a Gherao in the last 10 years? So Gherao is a gift of the left front government, and we are all victims of it. Why are you blaming the victim? Ladies and gentlemen, 10 years ago, around this time of the year, a girl was raped and killed in Delhi. Raped and killed in Delhi. I'm not drawing such an extreme example, but all I'm saying is I heard people even then blaming the girl for going out at night for work. You see, stop this blaming. We have failed as a federalism. We have failed because of successive governments. You are the worst of them, but that's beside the point. You are the worst of the governments that made us fail, but that's again beside the point. But collectively, all the governments have failed, and obviously, governments here have not been able to respond. We, the people of Bengal, have been the victims of this clash and failure. We are the victims of a failed federalism. We are like the children who are victims of a failed marriage. Don't blame the children. Don't blame the children. Accept the fact that there has been a failure, and also accept the fact that you are the worst. And incidentally, before going, since this is some sort of a preparation for their next stage, when you talk of corruption, I spoke out against corruption, incidentally, and quite recently. When you talk of corruption and other things, remember that there are corrupt elements everywhere, but the ones that you took to your party from some other parties are the most corrupt and the roughest and toughest elements. God help you.
Shabanda. Thank you very much. I was just intrigued that India has been called a series of failures. Failures in gender equality, failure in press freedom, failure of traffic management perhaps, failure of God knows what. I also compliment the man who put an accusing finger at India's failures for having spent most of his professional life at least presiding over a regime of failures. What that makes him is another matter altogether. Sir, what we've seen here is that there have been very confusing statements. If I was to take Mr. Shandip Chatterjee's assertion that in a war of elephants, it's the grass which suffers. It's the little man or the little person who gets trampled underfoot. Now that is something which we can always agree on this side and that side. But if we got to go into what Mr. Kalyan Banerjee very passionately, I'm sorry I didn't understand, I got lost in his Hindi this time. He pointed out that Bengal has been strangled, Bengal has been discriminated against. You almost believe that there was an inverse Article 370 which was put mainly to strangle Bengal. And that somehow the responsibility of the whole country is how we can discriminate against Bengal. I didn't realize Bengalis are so unpopular. I didn't realize that our neighboring state, Odisha, has the same regime, exactly the same regime. Odisha does reasonably well. At one time, we used to look down on Odisha. Today, Odisha is on the verge of overtaking Bengal. And for that, we are blaming the center. We are blaming Mr. Modi. I didn't realize Mr. Naveen Patnaik is really something of the center. It's baffling. This whole business is quite baffling. What we have here is a system which has lots of flaws. But I repeat this point once again, that these flaws have been uniformly spread to all the states. and that Bengal is not an exception to the flaws. My friend Kalyan Banerjee quoted Rabindranath. Rabindranath Tagore is a poet for all occasions. So let me end up by also quoting Rabindranath. And I would advise him to look at Rekhecho Bangali kore manush koroni.
Sorry, sir. This is not Rabindranath, this is Satyendranath Thakur. Sorry.
Shama.
I'm just going to counter what was said. It was said that by, I'm not taking names, that Bengal has to be, there is development in Maharashtra, there is in Odisha, there is, I think Gujarat was the other state. My answer to them is 34, I'm from Kerala, 34 years of left rule, you can't have any development. You just can't have. In my own state, we have the left, then the Congress. Then again, the left is right now. You don't get private investments, but they go on what you call Gerao, Hartal, strike. So that is the answer for that. That is the reason that everything comes after 2011 when the present government came in and not before that because you had 34 years of left rule. Then I heard the same person saying that a lot of names are called at Modi ji. Modi ji in parliament called my former parliamentarian, a lady called Renuka Chaudhary, Surpanaka. Is that right? Yes, he did. Yes. Because she was laughing like that. Please, I saw it. You cannot deny it. Then called my own or yours, everybody's prime minister in parliament is wearing a raincoat under a shower. Please, is that justified? Then says the prime minister, former prime minister of India, the former president of India, the former army general, General Kapoor, colluded with Pakistan to make Ahmed Patel the chief minister of Gujarat. You accuse these sort of leaders of sedition? Is there a justification to that? So if you tell me about calling names, I can go on about names, which I am not. There are Jersey cows, there is Shehzada, let me not get into all that. Then I think it was said about women getting raped. One of them said, women are getting raped in here, Dalits are getting raped. At least the CM takes action. Let's not talk about Unnao. Let's not talk about Hathras. Let's not talk about Khatua. I can go on about that, where action was not taken and where the dispensation, the leaders, the member of parliament, MLA, the chief minister stood with the rapist, not with the victim. So I can go on about that too. Then somebody said over here, brutal killers in this party, about the present party ruling this state. Didn't you, if you get those brutal, if you are saying that, the allegation, if you get those brutal killers in your party, if they jump ship, then they do not become brutal killers. They become your MPs, your MLAs, and you run the state. On that note, let me ask you about subversion of democracy after 2014. How many states people give the mandate for one party and who rules? I can talk about Maharashtra, I can talk about Madhya Pradesh, I can talk about non-present Goa before, Manipur. How many states there's been subversion of democracy, including Bihar? So there are subversion of democracy. The mandate is given to one, but of course MPs and MLAs are bought.
We have to wind up.
Okay, just last one. So what my point is, I was just taking over what they said, that about what has happened, subversion of a democracy, and all those accusations on this present state, because development in a state ruled by the left for 34 years is definitely going to be slow and not fast. And like our side said, the fiscal, I think Dr. Kunal itself said, the fiscal deficit at 3.4 is a good one compared to many other states and compared to what the center's fiscal deficit at this point of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ognimitra, please.
Yeah, I want to start with Kolanda. He was talking about a lot of figures. We got confused in between where he started and where he ended. I wanted to ask Kollanda, Mr. Kolland Banerjee, what do you think about the figure of 50 crore which was found in one of the TMC minister's girlfriend's bedroom? What do you think about that figure? I want to ask Kollanda, when you were not in the government, you were again in the opposition, every now and then, even when a crow died in the backyard, y'all asked for President's rule. Y'all did a press conference and asked for President's rule. What about the time when Honorable Prime Minister came to help the state of West Bengal during a natural calamity, and our Honorable Chief Minister and Chief Secretary didn't even get time, and you blame the federal structure that they don't help? What do you think about the time when Honorable Chief Minister asked help from the UN regarding a state subject? Mr. Jawad Sarkar, you talk about Gherao. You haven't seen Gherao, you said, in the last 12 years. I think, sir, you have forgotten a few days back. The tiger of Bengal, today's tiger, Justice Abhijit Gangopadhyay's room was Gherao by TMC advocates. Gherao happened, sir. You talk about 2.5 lakh crore which is pending from the central government. Sir, we manage families. In our family also we need to do the hisab. Have you given hisab to the central government? Every state is giving hisab accounts. You don't give accounts, you don't get payment. Mr. Sarkar was blaming something about ED. But sir, I think you know that this is a court-monitored investigation which is going on. And that is the reason why the central agencies are doing the investigation. Mr. Jawad Sarkar, you were talking about building our family. It's about some illiterates, you said. But as far as I remember, a few days back, you spoke about your family, your TMC family, where you said about the corruption that needs to be amputed. It's cancerous, and you had to face the brunt of your own party. So you better look into your family, sir. My Congress counterpart, it's good to hear from you, ma'am, about federal structure. You come from a party who has given us emergency, and every now and then, you all had declared President's rule. We remember the time when Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. N.T. Ramarao, was abroad, and you all had declared, your government had declared emergency. President's rule, sorry. And to end it, Doctor, I know he's a brilliant surgeon, but Dr. Chatterjee, I think you need to get your eyes checked up, because you probably haven't been following the newspapers, that every now and then West Bengal is discovering an ISIS or an Al-Qaeda or an PFI, and it is being arrested by whom? The NIA. So when you are talking and blaming the federal structure, I think you should think before what you say. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ognimitra. So I think Shundeep will be on the lookout for an ophthalmologist. He has a dentist beside him. Yeah.
I'm going to begin by answering 2 questions, and then I will question some answers. The 2 questions that I have to answer is why we are talking about the past when the motion says is. And the answer is because this is a statement of universal truth. If you say the sun is larger than the earth, it doesn't mean it's larger than the earth today. It means it has been larger than the earth for a long time. And that's what the is in the motion refers to. Bengal has been a victim for a long time. The other is the question raised by the Right Honorable Mr. Nambiar, who said that if you have one mother-in-law with 20 daughter-in-laws and 19 are happy and 1 protests, why should you give credence to that? The answer, Mr. Nambiar, is if you have one mother-in-law and not 20 but 200 daughter-in-laws, the law of the land says that if one daughter-in-law complains, then by IPC Act 498A, you first put the mother-in-law into jail, then you investigate the case of the daughter-in-laws. Mr. Chairman, sir, our questions I have to ask are this. We do not dispute there is hostility between the Honorable Prime Minister and our Honorable Chief Minister, both of whom I personally respect a lot. But I often ask myself, why doesn't the Honorable Prime Minister one day get up and say, I don't like that Chief Minister, but let's give some money so that these poor people in Bengal can get their DA? Or why does not our Right Honorable Chief Minister one day say, I don't like our Prime Minister, but I won't shout and scream against him. Let's get some money, after all, it will help the poor Bengali victims of my state. The problem is, Mr. Chairman, sir, this is the problem of our failed federalism. Our political masters are so involved in their self-survival that the masses are forgotten. And that is the problem why when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. A point which the Right Honourable Mr. Shopan Dasgupta also agrees with me about. In fact, to sum up, I would say the reason why the Bengali has been a victim of failed federalism is because in this acrimonious relationship between the centre and the state, we have lost our right to get our dearness allowance. We have lost our right to decide whether we will opt for the centre or the state healthcare scheme. We are no longer allowed in this state to opt for the central healthcare scheme. We are a victim because we've lost our neutrality as a bureaucrat and as a police. We are a victim because we've lost our ability to be protected from political violence. Even members of the Calcutta Club are a victim of failed federalism. You have had a recent presidential election where you've had a legal representative of the state pitted up against a representative of the centre. And because you couldn't have the centre and the state agreeing, you had to have an acrimonious election. So all of us here are a victim of failed federalism. Thank you very much.
So Shundip has brought the battle nearer home towards the election of Calcutta Club. And let's wind up the summations with Shazia. Shazia, your 3 minutes.
Well, I don't understand why should the central government compensate the abject failure, corruption, and fiscal mismanagement of the state. Another point, CAA, for the last time, has nothing to do with the Muslims living in India, Indian Muslims, Indian citizens, at any level. So there is only a limit to which this fake narrative can be used. Thirdly, some of our young friends there were asked questions about Disha Ravi. Let me tell you, the law remains the same. Just as Sandeep ji just mentioned, it's the same for everybody, no matter their age, be it anybody over 21 to any age whatsoever, the law remains the same and is dependent on the crime. I was part of both the Nirbhaya Andolan, which Jawaharlal just mentioned, and Anna Hazare movement, right there. And people throwing octogenarians in the jail, arresting youngsters for making cartoons. They all came from the UPA regime, and Modi ji was yet to be the Prime Minister, so this is not, I think we should call out fascist for who they are. And all of you, at least those who live here, I implore you to speak courageously against the arrest of journalists, YouTubers who care to make a meme or say anything about the government of West Bengal, and call out the complete failure of governance and rampant corruption of the state. Thank you so much.
Shazia, thank you. A part of the full house has succumbed to the dipping mercury, but that notwithstanding, we have to get on with the show of hands. So, all of us have been an audience to this very engaging debate, where points and counterpoints were exchanged with clarity, with passion, supported by statistics, supported by facts. So in conclusion, those of you who believe that the opposition has managed to convince you, the motion for this evening said that in the opinion of the House, Bengal is a victim of failed federalism. So those of you who do not agree with the motion and feel that the opposition has convinced you, please raise your hands. Now, those of you who felt that in spite of all the powerful points made by the opposition, you remain this evening convinced by the proposition that yes, in the opinion of the House, Bengal is a victim of failed federalism, please raise your hands. (47:71). So, ladies and gentlemen, this motion has been defeated. Thank you.